So this is our first in a series of Maker's Gonna Make, and we use that hashtag like they do on Instagram, hashtag Maker's Gonna Make. The reason is because we're looking at the book of Genesis, and Genesis is about the creation story. So that being said, Genesis 1:1 is the one that we started with, and the goal here was to try to capture the essence of a verse, and that's what I tried to do here. So let me read the verses to you, and then I'll explain the concept, and then the one thing that I haven't done yet, I'm going to do here at the end to kind of finish up the idea, to finish the story and bring it all together into what I think is the most important part of Genesis 1:1 through 5. So Genesis 1:1 says, "In the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters." That's like poetry to me, that line. "And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, 'Let there be light,' and there was light. And God saw the light that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day." And so going back, verses, of course, Genesis 1:1, in the beginning God created. That's like our foundational scripture for Tapestry. I feel like that creativity, creation, inspiration, all of those things are birthed right here. And that the gift of creativity comes from the giver, the creator. And so Tapestry was created in a way to be able to capture that essence of who God is through the artistic, creative talents that he's given us. And so that's why we do Tapestry, so that we can give God praise back for what he's done for us. But in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. Verse 2 though is really where I kind of keyed in on. And it says, "And the earth was without form and void, darkness was upon the face of the deep." And then this right here, "And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters." And so in that, I was trying to think, how can I capture this idea of God's Spirit moving, or even God's Spirit? Because it's like, well, Scripture says God is a spirit. No man has seen the Spirit. We can't see the Spirit. But I think that we can feel it, and we can see the essence of it in the people around us and the things that he does. But I was trying to kind of like hop into that realm, that plane, that dimension without obviously going there. So originally I thought about using like a real thin cloth or something, but I couldn't find anything that had like this translucency that I wanted, because I wanted the idea of light to pass through it, but to be fractured by it, right? And so I looked around, and then I came on this, and I've obviously we've all had drop cloths before. This is just a real thin plastic drop cloth, and I thought, well, what if I was able to take this piece of plastic and create a spot in it where it would hold a face, a sculptural face. And so I found this. I tried a couple of different things that didn't work, and then finally I came on with a process that did, and was able to pull this face out of this plastic. And this is the center point. If you see, you can't see it, but the light is shining through onto my hands here, coming from God, right? So this represents God, obviously, and his Spirit. And then the other thing that I wanted is something that was light enough that the breeze of our fans would move it. And you can see that it does. And if you're standing where I'm at, you can actually hear it just like kind of swishing. And so I wanted to try to capture that idea. And I think I feel really good about this. I think this really, to me, captures that essence and brings it to this focal point where we focus in on God. Of course, we can't see expression, but we can see just that form. And the important part to me is that the Scripture says that the earth was without form, but it doesn't say God was. But that it says that he centralized, he focused on a part where the Spirit of the Lord hovered over the face of the water. And I think that, I don't know if obviously we've all looked into water and seen our own reflection. And so God, in that moment, hovered and saw himself. And that's the point, because he saw himself. right? And so to me, what that means is, in that moment when he saw himself, he thought, I need to see more than myself. I want to see others. And so in that, he started the act of creation that ended up culminating in, these 6 days of creation and then the seventh, the Sabbath. But I kept thinking, okay, I got this part, but how am I going to do the water? Originally I thought about getting a really big, like a big flat bowl or some kind of dish and putting water in it. I had some black glass that I wanted to use that was reflective. I had a lot of ideas of trying to, how am I going to capture the water? But the more I started thinking about this and God's seeing himself in the reflection of the water, the more I realized that it's always been about one thing. It's always been about communion. It's always been about God communing with his creation. And so this is our communion bowl that we use here at Tapestry when we do our communion. And I thought, what better way to show that reflective nature of God than in his communion with us? And so instead of water, I'm going to use wine. Well, grape juice. But because it represents the most important thing that he did, which is our redemption, right? And so if I can do this without making a big mess. Okay. Almost full. And so in creation is already redemption, right? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and revealed his glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Same phrase, in the beginning, in the beginning. So in the beginning, there was a plan, the Logos. And that plan was already there in the beginning. And what was the plan? The plan was that there was going to be a manifestation of himself in his creation form, that he would be able to redeem the ones that he created. So the plan was there, the Logos, the identity, the everything. And the reflection was in the wine, or the blood of the new covenant. And so it's hard to capture the essence of Genesis 1:1 in those verses, but I feel like we are, well, first of all, when God created the heaven and the earth, he created everything that he was going to use to make everything else, right? Because when we look at later, it doesn't say that God created Adam and Eve later. He created them then. And then it says that he made them from the earth that he created. So all of the elements that he needed to do every bit of it happened all at the same time. And then we're going to see over the next few weeks how he takes those elements and he starts to pull them out and create new things, or make new things from that creation. And that's the beauty of God and even his creative power in us now, is that even though we might feel without form and void and darkness is on us and we're far from God, or we don't know God, God's Spirit is still hovering over the face of the waters. That's us, we're the waters. He's hovering and he's drawing us out and creating new things. So I'm going to play.
One day it's not the same. The Spirit calls my heart to sing. Drawn to the voice of my Savior once again. Where will my soul be without your Son? Who gave his life to save
Genesis series, and the idea is there's the verse that I'm working with is that the Spirit of the Lord hovered over the face of the water. So I have this 10 by 20 foot piece of plastic that I'm going to suspend over a piece of black or a small dish of water that's on a black surface so that it represents that. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make this part of the plastic hold a form. So I'm experimenting, and the experimentation is that I want to use this lacquer, which lacquer hardens, you know? So I'm thinking if I spray this plastic and I multi-layer the lacquer over it, that I can give it shape. So that's going to be the try. So we'll see if it works or not. I don't know. And then from there I have clear plastic clear tape that I'm going to try that if this doesn't work. So that's the try. All right. Well, the spray didn't work, so I'm going with Plan B, which was originally Plan A. Kind of. It was like A.2, but for sure it's where I'm at now. So what I'm doing is I'm using this clear tape to create some rigidity in this thinner mill plastic so that I can give this form. The thing about it is the form doesn't have to be really rigid, because what I'm trying to do is going to have a kind of an ephemeral feel to it. So it just needs to hold the shape in essence. It doesn't have to be technical. So that's what I'm trying to go for here. This tape is it's thicker than the plastic that I'm using for the body, but so it's going to suspend, and this is going to be flipped over facing down, and I want it to have like God's face is pushing into this realm from the spirit realm. So that's the concept. So we'll see how it works. All right, here is the moment of truth here. Let's see how this works. Get to it here. A lot of plastic. Here we go. Yeah, I think that's going to be all right. It's the face of the invisible man. Too bad. It's over here. That's what I was kind of going for. Something for a little bit more form, but I think overall it's going to have the effect that I'm looking for. I hope.